Hello, 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 and welcome to the final collective spotlight show of this studio. And when I say this studio, it's literally there is
no studio. We're not even in a studio. This is the front register, guys.
We're just in the store.
We're just living life.
It did. I got you guys though, thinking that the slat wall was the back room and everything, but it was not. Marvin Wynn, how are you doing, Marvin? Marvin actually has a book being published by one of the publishers that we are going to feature on our show today, which is Second Sight. These Second Sight will have their first wave of books releasing this week. They've done trade paperbacks through Caliber before, but now they are officially doing single issue floppies. The first book is Lady Freedom, created and drawn by our very own Spike Jerrell from Claremont. He will be my first guest on the show. But Marvin also has a Second Sight book, I believe, coming out next month, if I'm not mistaken. Marvin, you can totally plug your book if you want here.
You can even come into the show if you really want to.
Marvin Wynn! Oh, why didn't it click?
You don't even have the brand up or anything.
Dude, oh, I'm sorry.
Hit banners, bro. We'll put that.
Oh, whoa.
Hit banners. The top one.
Yo, I feel so fancy. Marvin says, what's up, Marvin?
What's up?
So here at episode 34 of the Collective Spotlight, yes, it's called The Edge, and actually,
we actually have it.
I have it. I knew it was something.
Danny's really good at saying that he's walking away from the camera, and then, yeah, there you go. There it is.
The Edge, and it's actually also. Get out of my way.
Dude, you're walking in this way. I gotta walk that way. There's not enough room.
Get out of my way. But what's really cool, glad that Marvin's here. If you look at The Edge and you look at Lady Freedom, you're going to notice one thing in common. They're both part of the Freedomverse, which Spike was telling me a little bit about yesterday, or actually Saturday, when he came to drop off the books at the store. And we will ask him about the Freedomverse here in a little bit. Marvin, we definitely got to get you on the show to talk about The Edge moving forward. And I think Spike is running about 2 minutes behind. But I do want to tell you, Second Sight, Lady Freedom, very cool. Spike was telling me it's literally kind of his superhero universe. Lady Freedom is his Captain America. He's got a cool version of Batman in here.
I think I saw a Deadpool type character.
I don't think it's a Deadpool type character. I think it's more of a Deathstroke type character. Taskmaster.
She looked just like Lady Deadpool.
And then, well, he's got it's heavily ladies, but he's got this awesome Pat Broderick incentive cover coming out. 1 in 5 incentive. We'll have those here. Yeah, Marvin, I'll definitely shoot you a message after this.
This isn't the chick I'm talking about.
No, that's like Lady.
Okay.
No,
Daredevil.
Yeah, this one is that who you're talking about?
Maybe, but that's
the same chick. Yes, it is. And what I thought was really cool about Lady Freedom is
she can do half mask and then full mask. That's weird.
Yeah, Lady Freedom is Native American, so I thought that was really cool because we see a little bit of diversity in this comic. Also, I gotta say this cover, that eagle, because I guess we're America, so that eagle is absolutely sick. Spike has some really awesome covers coming out in the future for this as well. He was showing me sneak peeks. I do want to give a shout out to who my second guest is going to be, Andy Schmidt, who just wrote Crime Syndicate, his first full single issue through DC. He's done some stories in Generation Shattered and Generations Forged, but this is going to be Andy's first book. And
also editor for a lot of things. He's been an
Young
editor.
Avengers.
What else? That was
I believe a lot of Marvel stuff. Daredevil.
A lot of Marvel.
He's done a few IDW edits as well.
Yes.
I'll talk to him about going from being an editor to a writer as well. We got 5 people watching. We're about to have on Spike Jerrell, the creator and artist of Lady Freedom.
We're hoping to, anyway.
Yeah, I think Spike should be. He said he was be ready at 5:35, and it is 5:35. Let's see where he's at. We could get Sabian up in here. Sabian could come on the show. Our good friend Sabian Willis is here in the store. He's actually always here on Tuesdays watching the shows. He usually watches them on the TV, but since we don't have TVs, he's just like a live participant, like in the bake. He's back there in the bake. Sabian, wave. See, he's back there. He's in the bake. Marvin said that Spike is on the way.
We're not allowed to sell packs without selling.
So what I thought was really cool about what Second Sight is doing is, one, their incentives are just 1 in 5s, which is going to make it so much easier for us to get cool incentive covers like this in people's hands. Because they're 1 in 5s, we will literally only charge $5.99 for an incentive like this. Spike is going to be in the store tomorrow as officially the last signing here in the collective, the old collective as we're going to call it. And both of these covers will be available $3.99 and $5.99, and we can get those shipped out to you if you want, or here locally. Mr. Marvin Wynn, we're gonna have the Edge. Marvin's told. I'm actually gonna make sure to ask Spike a little bit about the Edge. And now let's see where Mr. Spike is. Honestly, I was about to just ask Marvin if he wants to come in here. We can have.
Hey, I could be your guest today.
Mr. Marvin Wynn, if you want to jump in, talk a little bit about the Edge, feel free. I just dropped that link in there. The Edge, I thought what was really cool about the Edge was this is the A cover. As you can see, the trade dress is kind of on the side. And then for the 1 in 5, what Marvin ended up doing was a virgin version of this. So I thought that was really cool. I love the colors on this. And who's Marvin's artist on this? Mark Louis. Oh, I'm not even going to try to say that last name. Not even going to try. And then Spike's writer is Arthur Belfield. So we're really excited to have that creative team here on in a second. And just so you guys know, we are moving March 17th, and I'm actually going to grab a flyer. The new collective will be sharing a plaza with these awesome neighbors. And actually, Marvin just popped in. Mr. Marvin, how are you doing today?
We're good. How's it going?
Good, good. This is unexpected, but I'm literally holding your book, so I don't see any reason why we shouldn't have you talk about it for a little bit.
Sure. So the Edge is I just describe it as a drug that gives powers, but the more you use those powers, the quicker your death comes. So it's pretty much infecting the people who are using it. So you've got one character, Revenant, who is infected, and he's a former U.S. agent who goes rogue and is going out into the world to tell everybody about it. So his former handlers send a team. They form a team to go after him and take him out.
Ooh, nice. And so I noticed that you're part of the Freedomverse as well. So does that mean your book is connected with Spike's?
Yes.
Ooh.
Yes.
So
and we have another book coming out called Chess that's also connected to in the Freedomverse.
Nice, nice. So how did you guys get together with kind of creating a combined universe here between your guys' books?
So my book is kind of worked as a universe on its own, but I mean it's just fitting those pieces in those chunks together. So it's like when you're like, I wouldn't call it like the Marvel universe, more like Valiant, where those pieces just seem to flow together, as it's just a bunch of kind of pseudo government agent characters that work for different sections of the government, don't know anything about each other until they finally meet up.
That is awesome, because it's like a slice of the real kind of in there, because there's always so many entities. They don't always know about each other.
Right.
What I love, what sounds really cool, just as you describe it, is the whole thought process of that drug can make people superhuman, but also there's a negative to that. There's pretty much the monkey's paw, that the more they use it, the quicker they'll die. Where did that come about? Where did that idea come about? Because that's a very cool concept.
I mean, it came from an idea that, to me, how do you control these powers? Like, how do you control lasers shooting out of your face? Or how do you control these claws that rip through your skin every time you want to use them? Or you control anything, the weather, or being able to fly. And to me, it seems like it's something that would be very hard to master and something that you couldn't control. So one of our characters, Randa, she has the ability to absorb energy and then regenerate that energy from her body, and she can fly. But she can't control it. So there are times where she's flying and her powers just fail. They just turn off. And yeah, so she's like a human battery, and she has to absorb so much energy to use the powers, and she's not aware of that yet. So as the characters are learning how to use these abilities, we're learning more about them, and then we're learning that they have no control over these powers, and that they come and go. Sometimes they work, sometimes they don't. So what happens when you're in a fight or in a battle and your powers stop working?
Ooh, and I'm guessing you explore that a little, don't you, Marvin?
Yes.
That is awesome.
Yeah, there's a lot going on, and like one of the premises of the stories is escalation. So it's about you're dealing with one superpowered character, then there's 4, then there's 8, then there's 10, and it just starts, things start getting out of hand.
Nice.
So you have to deal with so one of the things we're going to do in our next arc, we're going to take one of the character's powers away from him, and then see what he's willing to do to get him back.
Nice. And how long? How do you have the arcs set up? Is it 4 or 5 issues? How many issues are you looking at?
It depends. So the first arc is 4, the second arc is 5. I think the third arc is 5 also, and the one I think is 6 or 7 issues. So we're already working on issue 14.
Nice.
So issue 14 is halfway penciled. I'm finished up the script on that, and we're also doing what I'm calling gap books. So we're going to do some stories that take place in between the arcs. So in between 4 and 5, we're going to have a book. In between 9 and 10, we're going to have a book. So that it's going to be kind of like solo adventures of one or two of the characters that helps flesh the world out more. And the way we do origins is we don't do origins of the characters until it makes sense in the story itself. So we're not doing a upfront, here's all the origins of the characters, this is how they met. We're only going to do that when the story calls for it. And then that story leads into something else that's going on. Like we're going to flash back and then flash forward and say, well, this happened and this is why this happened.
Okay, I kind of like that. You're not just boring people right out the gate with, hey, here's everybody's origin. You're kind of going to make it run with the story. I really like that. Marvin, you clearly know your comics. I everything you're saying makes absolute sense as a reader. What were your comic book inspirations growing up? What was the first couple comic books that really hooked you as a kid?
So I started reading comics in the 80s. So I was drawn to X-Men and Avengers. And I always talk about this, is that when Jim Lee, Rob Liefeld and those guys were on the X-Men books, and they started a revolution when they started Image, that's what blew everything up for me. That saying that, oh, there's more out there than just Marvel and DC, and you can do this on your own, or just take your ball and take it home with you and try to do your own thing. And that's what really fired me up and wanted me to try to do comics.
Cool. And it's cool that you literally mentioned that, because the Collective Spotlight show is literally made to spotlight indie creators, Kickstarters, things like that. So, you guys over at Second Sight, we have a lot of friends in the different smaller publishers, but you guys are doing it. You guys are doing it what Image kind of set out to do 20 years ago. And how have you seen, as somebody who saw that happen firsthand, how have you seen the comics industry change in those 20, 30 years?
I think like back in the 90s, you had a boom after Image came out. You had a lot of publishers start up. But I think the problem is that he started up with not really with a good idea on where they wanted things to go. So you saw a lot of 1 issue, 2 issues maybe get out, and then the company went defunct. They didn't really build a universe or build up on titles or build up their relationships with the stores or their customers. It was, oh, me too kind of stuff. I want to jump in there too. And it was, you almost had a downfall. Like if you remember back in the 80s when Atari crashed the video game market with ET. You had one of those things where it was almost a crash, where you had too much stuff out there that was just filling up the racks and it wasn't very good. And I think now with Second Sight and you got Scout Comics and a few others, they have the right idea on how to build up from a foundation, and not just starting from floor 3 and saying we're going to take over the world. You're not trying to take over the world. We're trying to take over where I live, Pittsburgh, or we're trying to take over New York. we're dotting our I's and trying to do things the proper way to try to conquer things as we go, and just show people that we're here to stay and that we bring in a product that people can get behind.
One of the things that I've noticed with independents, and actually Spike's about to jump in, but I've noticed with all independent books, really, you guys, and maybe it's because you have to, but independent writers, creators interact with their fans a lot more than I feel like people anticipate being able to interact with somebody who created a comic book that you just read. Is that kind of how you see it? That you guys kind of have to make yourselves more visible, I think.
Right, and I think that you have to do that. We have to talk to people and interact with not just your customers, but store owners and people who work in stores like you guys. That we're trying to create feel like a family, that we all have a goal to get good stories in people's hands, and that's just what we want to do. Is we want to interact, we want to have a good time, and not make people feel like we're ousting them or saying that, oh, we don't like those kind of people. But I mean, it's for everybody. We want to have fun, and that's what comics should be. Comics should be fun.
Talking about fun, I'm gonna bring this fun guy in here. I think there he is.
Who's that guy?
Smiling pig. Spike, how are you doing today, man?
I am excellent. Just trying to get the hell up out of work so I can do the fun stuff, as opposed to, so you guys can see I'm in my after work. Yay, bonus.
So Spike, I was actually Marvin was here in the chat, and it worked out perfectly because I didn't notice that the Edge and Lady Freedom are both part of the Freedomverse. This was new information to me.
What?
Yeah.
Really?
So,
okay,
yeah,
I thought I told you about that when I dropped. Good. So my plan for the Freedomverse, though, as well as all the hero books for Second Sight Publishing, anything that's technically a hero book or hero book related is going to be a Freedomverse book, if you will. So
awesome.
It has the potential of all being a crossover, crossing into different things, guest appearances, whatnot. So to give you an example, the first arc with Lady Freedom deals with time spheres that are also dimensional. So it would allow us to get back and forth across anybody's domain, if you will, or into another book. So we can get that, cross fun time, if you will. Like, somebody wants to know how well was Lady Freedom going to stack up against somebody, or, little fun for a page, like how well will Blowtorch do up against some of my baddies.
Nice. And are you guys, since I have both of you here, you mentioned the possibility of crossover. Are you guys hoping, especially since Marvin's a writer and Spike, you're an artist, could we potentially get?
I also write.
Okay.
Write.
Okay. I draw stick figures.
Yeah, Marvin told me he's gonna hit me with a commission, dude. It's gonna be awesome. He said he's gonna discharge me $100. I mean, that's a steal. But could we see people from the different Second Sight books working together? Or are you thinking more like Marvin can write a Lady Freedom character, you can write an Edge character? How are you envisioning these?
Oh no, I'm down. If Marvin, I know Marvin's got a lot on his plate though. So with the Edge and some of the new things that are working inside the Edge's arcs, anybody is welcome to, if they want to jump on board and write. Once the 5-issue arc is done, they can submit as whatever they want. If they want to, it'll be, we'll take a look and see what's going on, and if they submit a script or they have an idea, happy to look at it, of course.
So Spike, when you came in to drop off the books over the weekend, you gave me the refresher course on Lady Freedom, and I tried my best to give it to them, but I think you're more equipped for this. Do you want to give them a little bit of synopsis of what Lady Freedom is?
Absolutely. So being a longtime fan of some of the stuff that Marvel and DC have done, Lady Freedom is my actual take on Captain America. That's my Captain America. She's a Native American, all pure-blooded Cherokee that volunteered for the Army, volunteered for the Freedom Fighter program, has no idea what other than it was an opportunity to further protect the nation that she's from, and that's it. Whereas we have moments where Captain America might have questionable actions. Lady Freedom really doesn't have that. She's the Boy Scout. That's why we have all of the extraneous people that were with her, that part of the Freedom Fighter program that she gained her powers from. So in that, Lady Freedom is basically the icon for the U.S. to start in the Freedomverse. She has her sidekick, self-appointed, which is Scarlet. She was part of the Freedom Fighter program as well, but was considered a washout because she didn't really gain any abilities.
Okay.
Or at least that's what they saw, that she was, if you want to think, she's a little more durable than Daredevil.
Okay.
But has a lot of skill. She's very skilled, but isn't really much. She's a little bit tougher than Daredevil.
Okay.
Now, Camille, who is the liaison, is a telekinetic and a very powerful telekinetic, but she's been hiding her abilities since the Freedom Fighter program. She's worried that somebody's going to think that she's some kind of freak, that it's okay if Lady Freedom is the freak, but she doesn't want to be the freak.
Got it.
And so we are introduced in issue 1 with Black Valkyrie, which is my completely unredeemable negative version of basically Wonder Woman.
Okay.
She's a villain that's a villain. I don't believe in villains with just give you an example. I hate the fact that Maleficent had redeeming qualities in the live action movie. Maleficent is an evil bitch, and that's what it should have been, and it should never have been changed. But that's besides the point. So my villains are villains, and anti-heroes are anti-heroes. They're fitting into their molds so I'm kind of more back to the classic 60s style of storytelling when it comes to the characters and who they are.
Okay.
But the Freedomverse in itself is just basically the name for my setup of all of this universe that I've always wanted to draw. Issue 1 has obviously first appearances of Lady Freedom, Scarlet, Camille. There you go. Boom. Oh, the cover, by the way, is a Steranko homage.
I saw that over here after Steranko.
Yep. And the incentive book, which they have a few, and I'll have some more of at the signing, was done by the one and only Pat Broderick. Oh, yeah, there we go. So the back to what I was in, like Miss Enigma, who is in issue 2, is my Batman.
Ooh.
Yes, that's my Batman. And she's more in the vein of the Earth 2 Thomas Wayne Batman, where she's not afraid to pull the trigger when necessary.
Okay.
Like we talked about, if she was facing off against the Joker would never have been a villain. He would have lasted one issue.
Now, Marvin, do your characters in The Edge know about the Freedom Fighter program, or is this a spoiler? Is this something you can't tell us? Is that how far in do the people know about everything that's going on?
That's a spoiler.
Oh, okay.
All
right.
Marvin, I don't know were you even supposed to say it was a spoiler?
He was quick to the point. But no, I like the idea that these things are going to cross over before our very eyes, because as you're describing that, I'm literally thinking of how Marvin's characters will interact and vice versa. And as people get into these worlds, I can imagine very much so there will be crossover. I can totally see somebody coming in this week and picking up maybe one or the other, the Edge or Lady Freedom, and then coming back in a couple weeks and being like, yo, is there more to this? And be like, yes, there is. So I'm excited for all this.
Oh, yeah.
Spike, you're going to be here tomorrow, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, that's I'm gonna be there at 10 to 2, doing commissions. I got time for a couple of commissions. I'm gonna have original art. I'm gonna have, obviously, if you need more, I've got more Lady Freedom. I've got all the books that we have for the first wave of Second Sight, and sketch covers. I have sketch covers for the original release that was in the Kickstarter for Lady Freedom. Might even have a few of the Kickstarter books, which were very limited, on covers, that type of thing. But yeah, I'll be able to tell even more about it tomorrow at the signing. But the Freedomverse is basically me telling stories about characters. Like issue 4 introduces my Superwoman, which is Hyperia.
Yes.
And also my Flash, which is Arclight, and their brother and sister.
Yes, you were telling me, and I can't wait to see your Flash. I love speedsters. Give me speedsters all the time. Marvin, give me a speedster in there.
Well, I would think
I'm sure that
the Edge, he would burn himself out after a couple minutes.
That's true. The speedsters wouldn't last too long on the drug over there, would they?
No.
Yeah, that might be an issue, but you never know. It could be some weird freak instance that winds up converting somebody with the drug into, it becomes permanent.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's true. Or as I've seen.
Oh wait, spoiler.
Gosh, quit ruining Marvin's. But no, as I've seen in enough Flash material, it happened to Earth 2 Flash, which is Johnny Quick. He could just disintegrate. Just you're done. You just run yourself out of existence. So I wouldn't be too mad.
There's Johnny Quick, and there's also Jay Garrick, who is the actual Earth 2.
Yes,
Jay Garrick.
Yes. So I was thinking Earth 3, which actually my next guest is writing a book based on Earth 3. But as I wrap up, guys, first of all, since Marvin came in, saved the day a little early. Marvin, where can people find you other than at your local comic shops tomorrow for the Edge? But are you on Twitter and Instagram?
Yep. Twitter, I am at Marvin Wynn. On Instagram, at The Edge Comic. On Facebook as at The Edge Comic. At The Edge Comic is actually on Twitter. Someone took it and they don't use it and they won't give it away. I'm like, let me have it.
Those bastards.
Been there, done that, man. I want to be. Danny Morales on Twitter is already taken, so thankfully, Danny 9 Panels was available.
Nice.
But Marvin, I'm wishing you the best of luck. This was a pleasant surprise, but I'm really excited to get this in people's hands tomorrow, along with Spike's book. But Spike, I know you got to join us late, but where can people find you other than here tomorrow?
On the Second Sight website, of course, at artist Shrek on Instagram, or Spike Jerrell on Facebook.
Awesome, guys. So I cannot wait for everybody to get both of these books in their hands tomorrow. Honestly, if your comic shop is supporting Second Sight, go by, pick it up. If they're not supporting Second Sight, don't worry, don't be mad at them. Just give us a call and we will provide you with your Second Sight books.
I will say this. I'm going to have some very limited amount of Chris Callahan issue 2 pre-order covers.
Ooh.
Virgin and trade dress that he did for me. I think I sent you an image of it.
You did, and
I don't know how many. I don't know how many I'm going to have there, but they're going to go for at least 25 if people are want to pre-order one from you.
Okay, so we will have those, and you will be here from 10.
I know. Yep.
Go ahead, Spike.
10 to 2.
10 to 2. Spike will be doing some commissions, so come early if you want to get a commission. I know we have our early morning warriors, but if anybody wants to call, we can also get you a signed copy or a commission. You can pick it up later in the day. We'll take a picture of Spike holding it so you know it was real, you know?
Gotta get that third.
Yeah. Well, we have COA. We also have CGC grading. So there's all the options for you when you come tomorrow. But again, guys, thank you so much for joining me. Marvin, best of luck with the book, man. We'll get you back. When issue 2 eventually comes on, we'll get you back on,
Make sure everybody gets a copy of previews and gets the books. And just to plug really quickly, not just mine and Marvin's book, but a hot book right now that I think that people are going to really start to want to see is Blowtorch from Alfred Page. That's strong. It's really strong. It's black and white, but people will really dig it.
Yeah,
I like it.
You guys
and
got
that
some
says
real
something because
coming.
I'm really picky, and I like his book. And if nothing else, there's a one of the other ones which is there at the shop is.
I think Spike literally just fell, but I think what he's gonna say. There he is.
And next month's stuff, which is Duplicant from Carla Nappi.
Yes, and then we
Those
get
are
Chess
hot books, guys.
as well, don't we?
What's that?
Isn't Chess next month as well, or is that 2 months from now? Chess.
Yes.
Yeah, April. Yep.
Cool. So yeah, thank you so much, guys, for joining me. Best of luck
No
with
worries.
second. I can't wait to be a part of this rollout that we're about to have tomorrow, and having Spike in house will be awesome. Marvin, thank you so much for joining us, dude. It was so awesome to get to learn about the Edge. And Spike, you take it easy. Get home safe, man.
Oh yeah, man. All right. Have a good night, guys.
Take it easy, guys. Enjoy. Best of luck with the books.
Thank you. Bye.
Yep. Thanks.
So that was Marvin Wynn and Spike Jerrell from Second Sight, both of their books respectively coming out tomorrow. The Edge and Lady Freedom. We have them both here, plus Lady Freedom. You can get signed. And then my next guest, I was really excited to get this guy on here because I read this book last week. It was one of my favorite books. Andy Schmidt. How are you doing, Andy?
I'm all right. Living the dream.
Hey, that's what I like to hear, dude.
How are you doing?
Good, man. I can't complain. And I'm glad I finally got to get you on here. I had been chasing you around on Twitter for a little bit. We finally made it work.
Yeah, I'm always happy to, talk comics. This is what I do for fun anyway.
Well, and what I thought was really cool for you about Crime Syndicate. So you've gotten to write a couple of stories in books for DC and Generations Forged and Generation Shattered. But this was kind of your first full single issue with DC. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's my first solo book with DC. I actually started on that before I started on Generations, but but yeah. That's just how the timelines unfold,
So, Crime Syndicate. We're on Earth 3. We've got Ultraman. He's the main guy that you see in issue 1, but we all know there's Owlman out there and the rest of them. Just talk to me a little bit about what the miniseries of Crime Syndicate is going to be.
Well, it's in a way it's spinning out of the death metal books and how they've rebooted the spoiler alert. They rebooted the multiverse at the end of that. So this is actually a fully new Earth 3 that we haven't. This is not the Earth 3 we've seen before. It's very similar because they're iconic characters at this point. But DC wanted to make some tweaks. I wanted to make some tweaks. We had a lot of conversations, and then one of the things that we talked about super early on was that no one had ever done like an origin story of the Crime Syndicate. So that scene, given that we were kind of, reinventing the universe from the ground up, we figured this was the time to do it. And I had proposed this idea of doing backup stories, one per issue for each of the characters that sort of showed. You could say they're origin stories, but they're what I call they're the flip moments. So the whole get on Earth 3 is that it's like the regular DCU, but good guys are bad guys are good. So, but we wanted to make that fairly organic. So I was like, well, why don't I do stories in the back that gives you that insight as to why did Thomas Wayne become Owlman and kind of go evil instead of go more like Batman and become Bruce Wayne. So So that's what the backup stories are, and they're awesome. They're by Brian Hitch. They're which was one of those things. Like Hitch and I had worked together back when I was an editor at Marvel, like years and years ago, and I hadn't really talked to him in a long time. And then DC recommended him, and I was like, sure, he'll do. Yeah, he's all right. And then Alex Sinclair does the colors on those, so those are really fun. And those are only 4 pages, and they're in the back of each issue. And then so those backup stories kind of more or less give you the gist of the individual characters. And then the main story, which is 6 issues, that really tells the story of how the crime syndicate came together, and then why they actually stay together, which I think is kind of the more interesting question, really, because you can have something that brings characters together once, but then figuring out why do these characters, who are all like evil jerks, like why would they stick together and help each other out? And that's a little bit more complicated and a little bit more interesting. So,
and that's what you'll be getting into throughout the meat and potatoes of what'll be the 6-issue mini, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's what it's all about. And the 6 issues are it's broken into 2 parts. So there's like sort of a 3-issue mini arc and a 3-issue mini arc at the end, but it tells the whole story of how the crime syndicate comes together and why they stay together.
Cool. And what I thought was really cool about this first issue, and anybody that's been a longtime DC fan, specifically a Justice League fan, will recognize the villain that shows up at the end, or however the foe that may show up at the end. He may resemble a marine type animal, but I thought that was very cool because that's literally how the original Justice League's origin started. And very much like you said, it's those turn moments. You have the same situation, but these are totally different guys. And I'm excited to see where you go from that, because that's kind of where you ended the first issue without spoiling anything.
Yeah, well, I mean, he is on the cover, so I don't think we're spoiling that Starro, everyone's favorite villain, is there. But yeah, Starro was responsible for the formation of the original Justice League of America, which is why we chose him. The other reason why I didn't go into this going, man, I can't wait to write Starro. I went into this going, Starro was the original. We're trying to mirror that universe, so that works. But if it hadn't worked from a character standpoint, I don't think I would have been okay like going away from that. But what Starro allows us to do, allows Kieran McCowan and I to do, Kieran's the artist and he's amazing. Starro is not he's not a character that you have to like set up all these intricate plots with, and he doesn't have big machinations. He doesn't give big speeches. So by using Starro, we're able to actually keep the focus on Ultraman, Owlman, Superwoman, Johnny Quick, who you guys were just talking about, the Earth 3 Flash, and Atomica, and the Emerald Knight, who was Power Ring. He's been sort of revised. He's our evil Green Lantern. So we're able to keep the focus on them and still have a giant globe spanning threat, which is really cool.
What I thought was cool, and maybe I'm just a DC nerd looking deep into the cover, but like this is like the Earth 3 Atom, right? Yeah,
that's Atomica.
That's what. Yeah, there we go. I couldn't get her name, but I thought that was cool because you didn't just do the core Justice League members. You're going to show that there's a little bit more to this universe than what everybody always talks about, because everybody just sees Ultraman, Owlman, and I mean even Johnny Quick shows up like once in a blue moon, right? I mean, are you going to get a chance to showcase some of these Earth 3 characters that aren't always around?
Yeah, depends on what you mean by showcase, but those 3 definitely, like Johnny Quick, Emerald Knight, who was Power Ring, he's the evil Green Lantern, and Atomica, definitely they play through all 6 issues. And then we have a ton of cameos. Like one of the things, so when you and I were talking on Twitter, and I forget the gentleman's name, had asked like, why not call the book Earth 3 and make it about the whole globe? Well, we don't call it Earth 3 because Crime Syndicate is more well known, and it is focused on those characters. But the reality is one of the other things Starro allowed us to do was sort of break open the world a little bit, so we could get cameos, because there are Starros all over the planet. So we could let you know as a reader, and there's even stuff in that first issue that's pretty deep cuts that so far I haven't seen anybody online or anything go,
now I got to read it again, Andy. What are you doing, man?
Yeah, I mean, there's stuff in there. One of the things so Brian Cunningham was the editor that I was working with when we started it, and he's got an expansive DC knowledge. My DC knowledge seems to be confined to certain time periods when I was a big reader, and I would kind of go in and out. So it was really awesome having a resource like him, and now Andrea and Marquise are my editors now, and they're awesome, and they're super helpful at doing that deep dive stuff. Sometimes it's just like, okay, I need a character that's kind of like this. What do we got? and then we'll all go to different corners of the internet and then come back and go, here's the list we came up with, and we'll talk through them and we'll find the right thing. And it's like, I'm pretty sure that's what people who dream about making comics just think every day is like, because you're just making crap up and you're
pull the list,
pull the list, and it's just a bunch of nerds talking comics. On its best days, it is that. On its best days, it is that. On its worst days, it's you alone with a deadline, and you're not sure how to crack that story. But yeah.
So I did want to. I totally want to just I was totally going to do this interview totally about Just Crime Syndicate, but I looking into your background, you've done extensive work as an editor as well.
Right.
So I figured, if you want to let people in on the background of, like you just said, people think making comics is easy. I don't think everybody thinks that, but I think that is a preconceived notion for some people. Oh, you just draw or you just write. Like what's it? But talk to me a little bit about the editing process and what you learned while being an editor that you might have taken over to your writing gig.
Yeah, sure. My career is kind of weird. It's a little all over the place. And I'm also a little bit of an entrepreneur. So I currently run multiple businesses.
Oh.
Most of them deal with comics. So, but yeah, I started at Marvel as an editor and worked in what we call the Marvel Heroes office. Tom Brevoort was my boss. So I learned a ton from him. He's awesome. He's still there. And has worked on every character Marvel has ever published, I think, at this point. But yeah, I mean, that's really a project management process. Yes, you're involved creatively. On some projects, you're involved a lot. On some other projects, less so. And I was there from 2002 to some point in 2007, which was sort of this nerve-wracking but super cool time to be there because Marvel was still in bankruptcy when I started there, which I think is really hilarious to think about now, the juggernaut that they are. But they were still in bankruptcy. People were getting laid off every week. It was this sort of nightmare scenario on one hand. On the other hand, it also allowed for them to take a lot of risks. And that meant take a lot of risks on younger editors like myself. And so we were able to kind of get our claws into characters a lot earlier than I think you could today. That's a guess. I'm not there anymore. But I worked on this incredible lineup of stories while I was there. And I learned more from, the creative talent I was working with. I worked on Mark Waid and Mike Ringo's FF. I worked on Civil War. I worked on House of M. I worked on Avengers with Bendis and, when that was just blowing up, and Finch and Disassembled. I worked on The Winter Soldier with Brubaker and Epting. And then not my first solo project, but the one I'm probably best known for as an editor is Annihilation, which led to the Guardians of the Galaxy stuff. So I just learned a ton about how to work with other people, about how to manage comics. I learned a lot about how they're produced. And so after I left Marvel, that's when I started teaching. I started Comics Experience, which is the online comic book school that I do. So if you're interested in taking courses, you can go to comicsexperience.com and
awesome.
Check it out. And, I teach some of the writing classes. I teach the intro to writing class. Got Philip Seavey doing art and all this sort of stuff. So I started that, back in 2007, right when I left Marvel. I've gone from there. Now I run a comic book and graphic novel printing business. Also, it's insane. I don't know. You can't sit still, so I'm always working. I'm just always working. And then I'll see a need. The printing business is a great example. I didn't set out to start a printing business, but I had all these creator friends and small publishers that I'm friends with, and they were struggling. The print bills were going up, and so I just started looking into ways we could get those back down and still maintain quality printing. And next thing I know, I'm like, all right, this is taking up enough of my life that I need to turn it into a business because people keep the thing was, it was all word of mouth because people would say, "Oh, Andy can help you with that. Oh, Andy can help you with that." Like I'm behind the scenes, I'm doing all this stuff. It's crazy. And so then, so now actually my wife now works for that business. Like it grew so much in 2 years that my wife left her job and now.
That's awesome. I mean, you don't expect it when you start it, but it's awesome when you can get there, right? Like,
yeah, and it really did start from like just trying to help creators out, making things better for them so they could, make a little bit more money off the work that they're toiling 12 hours a day over and that kind of thing. And I mean, I've worked in video games, I've worked in TV and film, I've worked in animation, I've worked all over the place, and I've worked in toy companies, and I don't know anybody that works harder than comic book creators, and I don't know anybody more passionate than comic book creators. So if I can help comic creators get a little more cheddar, I'm going to try. Well,
no, and that's awesome because literally we created this show and both what we call the collective initiative shelf for that same reason. It was the small imprint, the self-published, the Kickstarter guys, because we've seen how hard some of these Kickstarter guys work just to, they're fulfilling to 200, 300 people. But to those 200, 300 people, that's the most important book they're receiving that month, so it's huge. It's awesome. When you were at Marvel, was that the time that Axel Alonso was there?
Axel was there, but he wasn't editor-in-chief yet. So
okay.
Axel was editing, like when I started, he was doing like the Spider-Man books.
Gotcha. Because I was gonna say we're almost full circle because literally we had Axel as one of our first guests. Now we got Andy, and it's like here we come. Here goes the merry-go-round.
Yeah.
But go ahead, Andy.
No, go ahead.
No, I was gonna say. So as we mentioned, you started working on this before Forged and Shattered actually hit shelves. So this is like kind of your first writing baby with DC. So what was it like to see this hit the shelves last week? And then actually, I believe you said that a lot of stores that you had spoken with were sold out as well.
Yeah, at least the ones near me, which I don't attribute to me living here because I don't know that anybody knows where I live. and with COVID, most of the stores weren't doing like signings and stuff, so there wasn't really an opportunity for that. I mean, maybe there will be like, by the end of this thing or whatever, but yes, that's what I was hearing was that, I was seeing stores, some of the stores were tweeting back to me saying, "Hey, we're out of it. Where can I get more?" I'm like, well, put those reorders in, it'd be great if we sold out. So at least locally they've been selling out. I don't want to overstate that. I'm not like making some giant proclamation, but it was awesome. I mean, like I said, I wasn't able to go into a store, which was a little too bad. But it's not my first comic that I have written ever to be published, so it wasn't like heartbreaking. But it was my first solo effort for DC. So seeing it come out and then because it's part of this wave, with Infinite Frontier, I think a lot of people were picking it up and talking about it and reviewing it, and it was really cool. I mean, even if you get a review, most reviews were very, very positive, which was super cool. But even if you get a review that's, they don't really click with it or whatever, as long as nobody's nasty, like that's fine. No book clicks with everybody. So you just take what you get. But yeah, overall, it's been super positive. Everybody on Twitter has been really nice to me, which is
that's good.
Which seems very un-Twitter-like.
That's the place people will be the most mean if they want to be.
It's crazy. I kind of was like, so my original Twitter handle is now at Comic Experience, which is for the Comics Experience business. So it morphed into sort of the business Twitter handle a couple of years ago. So I only started my own personal Twitter account like 2 months ago. So it's very new.
I was surprised how little followers you had. I was like, man, this guy's on Syndicate.
Right. I literally just started it. And it was coincidence. It wasn't even because I had the stuff coming out from DC, but I just started it because I was just like, you know what? I haven't been on there. And with COVID and where I am, the rates are quite high. So we've been fairly isolated. My kids are staying at home and all that. And I just felt like I was just getting, even though I was doing more work, I was working with DC, I was feeling less connected with the community that I love. So I was like, I think maybe it's time I just had a personal Twitter account. And so I started one up. I didn't do any fanfare. I was like, I'm also kind of curious, when you start a Twitter account 15 years after this was a new thing, like how long does it take to get followers. So yeah, it's a slow process, and it's funny too because a lot of people they're interacting with me, but they're not following me. And my guess is that a lot of folks probably thought that they did follow me, or, or I'm just not that popular, which is fine too.
Well, that's funny. Well, Andy, me and you we're following each other, so we're there. We're there. We'll grow. We'll grow.
We're tight. We're tight.
So since you're the guy writing the book, I have to ask. All right. I feel like every comic fan that's read an Earth 3 book has this question. So on Earth 3, do they know they're on Earth 3, or is it just Earth to them?
That is a good question. The way I am writing the characters is this is just Earth to them.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's what I expected, but it's like I feel like everybody has that in the back of their mind. Like, do they know they're on Earth 3?
In fact, in my pitch, my original pitch that I sent to DC for the book was, if we do our jobs right, by the end of 6 issues, you, the reader, won't feel like you're reading evil Superman, evil Batman, evil Wonder Woman. You are reading about Ultraman, Superwoman, and Owlman. So that's our bar. That's where we set it. I hope we get there by 6 issues, but it's weird too, because I'll tell you, as the writer, like sometimes, like I'm Alexander Luthor, who is Earth 3's superhero. It is so baked into my brain that Luthor is evil that like I have to like catch myself and be like, oh no, this Luthor wouldn't say that. He wouldn't do it that way. It's really fun. But then I think with all of them, Luthor shows up later in the series, so I'm still kind of getting a little bit more comfortable with him. But it took a little while to stop, even for me, who was like going into it with that goal, to stop thinking of them that way and just start thinking of them. But with all the main characters, at least I see them as who they are. Like Ultraman speaks like kind of like a little bit like a gangster, and like that just flows out now. Like there's no like writing him like Clark Kent and then going, but what's the evil version of that? Like it just comes right out as Ultraman now.
All right.
Yeah.
That's awesome. And now what you mentioned Luthor, and I'm not like the deep dive Earth 3 guy, but as I'm reading it, I'm like, oh, there's like a good version of the Joker here. Like, and that's one that like my mind can't get over that hurdle. Like, this is the worst bad guy in the book. So like I'm excited to see people get to read the heroes of Earth 3, because most people know about Ultraman and Owlman, but they don't really get to deal with the Luthor of that world and everything else like that.
Right. Yeah. And Luthor shows up for the first time in issue 3, and then his role gets bigger from there. Jester is usually what the Joker character is called. We if any of you Jester fans are listening, like or watching, like I'm sorry he doesn't show up here, but that's because I originally had pitched a 12-issue series, and he had his own kind of, I was saying like they're sort of mini story arcs, and he had his own arc, which I'm like secretly holding out hope I'll be able to tell that story later, because I thought we had a really, really cool take on a good Joker that was still very much the Joker.
So as you say this, now that the wheels in my head are turning, it clearly they're going to give you 6. It says they printed it on the paper.
Yep. We got 6,
but it's never DC has before taken successful miniseries and given them either what they called season 2s or continued them. Sean Murphy was very successful with White Knight. So is the back of your mind, like so since you mentioned that you originally had as 12, if they came back to you and said, Andy, we'd love you to do season 2 of Crime Syndicate or whatnot, you'd be there, wouldn't you?
Yeah, I'd love to do more. I'll be honest with you. It's going to take a lot of fans to make that happen. And I don't, they don't tell me the sales numbers. My thinking is that sales on issue 1 are probably pretty solid. I mean, it comes out of Death Metal. It's part of the Infinite Frontier. It's a new Earth 3 book. I think that's got some interest, but we're going to have to hold on to those fans for 6 issues before DC is going to make any kind of, decision like that. But it's an uphill battle from here. And I'm not
if I got anything to do with it, everybody that comes in the store for any book is leaving with a Crime Syndicate. All right.
It's a fun book. I mean, who doesn't want to read about Superman and Batman as total horrible humans.
Absolutely. And like you said, the backstory by Hitch, or the backup story by Hitch, was awesome. Like and honestly, I didn't even feel like it was separated. I would have never been like, oh, that was written by a different guy, because it still kind of flowed very well. I thought that was really well done.
Yeah, we are trying to make sure that there's, you know, whether it's theme or whatever, that there is connective tissue, you know, between the backup stories and what's going on in the front story. So each of the backups is a different character, and each of those characters is featured in some way in the issue that is their backup. So the first 3 issues are Ultraman, Owlman, and Superwoman. You know, our kind of feeling was the first real arc has to be about those big 3. But then we have a lot more freedom in the 4, 5, and 6. And in some ways, I think 4, 5, and 6 are kind of more interesting, because, like you were saying, like the setup in issue 1 is kind of what you would expect, sort of a superhero team setup. But then what's really interesting is where it goes from there. And so in issues 4, 5, and 6, we get to focus on Emerald Knight. We get to focus on Johnny Quick and Atomica, and that's really cool and really fun.
Anytime you say Johnny Quick, my eyes light up, because I'm like, I can't wait for that issue. So one thing I have to ask you, just because I feel like now with the popularization of the boys, the connection sometimes gets made that 2 or 3 years ago would have never been made, you know. But now with mainstream, you know, television series, some people see Crime Syndicate and they say, oh, that's just the boys again. How and granted, you probably don't think about this when you go into writing, but what are some of the struggles of trying to make sure something doesn't feel like something else, make sure that it's its own original thing?
You know, it really gets into the characters. Like, you know, the DC universe has a lot of things that I like about it and that I like to use. And there's a lot of unique characters and situations there. So I like to pull from that history, from that sort of that tapestry of those characters. Because you can't do a creator-owned book and just do your version of X, your version of Y. You know, I mean, to a certain extent you can, right? But at some point, that character, that has to fly on their own. No pun intended. You know what I mean? And so for me, you know, I actually intentionally did not watch The Boys. I'm really looking forward to it. Oh. I love Garth and Derek, and I've read the books. So I'm like, it was very difficult not to watch The Boys. But I was like, I can't do that. Like, I just should just stay away for now. Yeah. And I was psyched when they got their season 2, because I was like, great, more for me to binge when I can do this. Yeah, I mean, you just have to find the core of their characters, really. You know, it's never about the powers, it's never about the costumes. It's always about who they are and the decisions they're going to make that are unique to them, which again is actually part of why we did the backup stories, was to differentiate them from, you know, because they're the evil analog or mirror universe, to use a Star Trek term, of the Justice League. And I don't want them to be just that. I want them to be more. And I want you to have some sort of, if not sympathy, like you can connect with them on some level. Like, you know, and that's why Ultraman's past is, you know, it's kind of in like sort of middle school age. It's like, who doesn't feel like an alien in middle school? I know. Yep. I sure as heck did, you know. And so there are things that hopefully people will kind of connect with them on some level. Like, you know, and I don't have any illusions that people are going to like deeply attach to these characters in the 6 issues, but then also they're such jerks, and like that's kind of fun too. You know, one of the criticisms some folks have had of the book is that like there's like no one to root for, and there are heroes coming. They're not really in issue 1, but there are heroes coming. But so one of the things that I was trying to do, and maybe not as successfully as I'd hoped, was, you know, inject some humor into the book. So I'm hoping that people get at least like a laugh or a snicker along the way. Like, that's one of the ways to sort of keep it kind of light, is to just, you know, make it. I'm always trying to put myself in the shoes of the reader and make sure that if I were reading this book, I wouldn't just come away like, oh, they're all so freaking terrible. Yeah. I'd want to come away and be like, they're terrible, but like there's something fun here. Like, yeah. So it's hard not to cross that line and make them, you know, irredeemable.
And Spike actually, you know, who we had on earlier, is writing his superhero universe here in a creator-owned world. But he mentioned, he's like, yeah, I don't like my villains to have a redeemable trait. they're just bad people, you know. And I think people that gets lost sometimes in supervillains, is that, you know, everybody wants to have a redeemable quality. Even Thanos, you know, he had good intentions with the snap, but it's like, it's kind of a bad guy.
I mean, he could have just grown more food.
Yeah.
I mean, that would have worked too. But
so, Andy, I know you got dinner to get to. I do want to ask you one more thing.
sure.
You mentioned that you're new, you know, your Twitter is new. Your Twitter handle, if you're okay with me giving it out to the peeps,
Sure.
is at 39A Andy.
Right.
What is 39A?
39A is the launch pad in Florida where you know all the Apollo missions took off from.
And we're right here in Florida, literally like less than 2 miles from the launch pad, and I didn't know that. So I'm glad I asked.
Yeah, and that's where like the SpaceX stuff is. Most of that is launching from there.
2 hours. Sorry.
2 hours. Well, if you get the chance, go to Kennedy Space Center. It is amazing. Yeah.
So are you a space fan, or do you like?
Yeah. In fact, my 2 favorite shows on television right now are The Expanse and on Apple TV, For All Mankind. Those are probably my 2 favorite shows.
You a Firefly guy?
Yeah, of course.
Okay. All right. There we go. That's how we end it. Andy's a Firefly guy. No, I'm just. But Andy, thank you so much, man, for joining us. This has been a great interview. Wishing you the best of luck with Crime Syndicate. We still have a couple of copies in the store, both covers, actually. Very awesome B cover that is very underrated. But yeah, Andy, thank you so much for joining us. Best of luck with the book. Can't wait to see what unfolds in these 6 issues. And whenever your next book comes out, we'll have you back on, man.
All right. Thanks, Danny. Really appreciate it.
Take it easy. Enjoy your dinner.
All right. Bye.
So thank you again to my guest, Andy Schmidt, who we just had from Crime Syndicate. We also had Spike Jerrell from Lady Freedom, and then surprise guest Marvin Nguyen from The Edge. All of these books will be on sale at the Collective tomorrow, except this one's already on sale if you wanted it. So thank you again to all these guys. This has been our final Collective Spotlight show from this building. Say goodbye to it.
I mean,
Well, tomorrow you'll see it.
It might be the second to last. Depends on what we're doing next week. What are you doing?
I don't know.
You're
That
making
just
people
looked cool.
sick.
It just looked cool. All right, bye guys. Take it easy. It was fun. Love y'all.